What are rich people problems like? I have two friends who were born into the $100 million plus club, and the main things I've seen are guilt that they were born into a situation by random dumb luck that other people would dream of, and then the weight of obligation to use the gift they were given to do things that don't satisfy them, prioritizing the happiness of others over themselves. A paranoia around friendships or relationships, not knowing whether people even a little bit love them for their money. A feeling of inadequacy that no matter how successful or brilliant you are, you'll never be as successful as your parents. Feeling that your problems are not as important as real problems, even though to you they are of maximum importance and emotional weight. Generally it messes with your self-image. It's hard to find out who you are without money being a part of it. This is from a conversation I had with a guy I met on vacation. He had grown up fabulously rich, but he never really saw his parents that much, especially when he was a kid, as they were both high-achieving workaholics. Instead he had a maid that had been there for as long as he could remember, put him to bed at night, breakfast in the morning, etc. So in his mind, he had two moms. The one that he met for dinner a few days a week, that demanded he brushed his hair and put on presentable clothes. And his real mom, the one that was always there, actually taking care of him. When he was 5 years old, the maid quit. She had gotten a better job somewhere else, and was looking forward to spending more time with her actual kids. And everybody was happy for her. Everybody smiled, and told him to be happy she was moving on to something better. As she hugged him goodbye and happily walked out forever. He lost his real mom, and he wasn't even allowed to feel bad about it. I met this guy when he was 27, and he was still struggling with it. Not rich myself, but I have a family member who earns low 7 figures annually. Biggest problem they've struggled with is that our whole family comes from being poor and they are the one that made it. They've had to cut off entire parts of the family, including siblings and parents, because everyone just wants stuff from them. One of their parents demanded they buy them a home because, "You owe me for raising you." It's even worse from their siblings. They have to keep their social media feed on a week-long delay, so if they travel anywhere that other family members are, they won't hit them up with a new scheme or asking for a loan. It's terrible to watch. Trust. Is anyone doing things because they actually care for you or because of your money? It is a real problem for rich guys I know looking for marriage. Sex is one thing, actually have someone love you is another. A good friend of mine has a terribly rich father, and he told me that his dad never had friends like my parents do, who come by from time to time and bring a small present, like something from their shop or from the market, and drink coffee together or a beer in the evening. That changed my perspective a bit of rich people when I was younger. They miss out on small acts of kindness, because people think it wouldn't affect them. The other day, a client of my dad's wrote a $3,000 check for my medical bills. I've been sick for a while and it came up in some casual conversation. The client recommended a place for medical testing. We went, got a consultation, but the price was too high to justify without insurance coverage. The client calls the place, sees we haven't done the tests yet, and he writes my dad a check for the full amount. $3,000 doesn't sound like a lot compared to some of these stories, but this may change the course of my life. His justification: I have more money than I can ever spend. I used to work in fine art shipping, and rich people constantly called and asked if we could remind them which house we'd ship their expensive artwork to. They would have trouble remembering. The owner of the company I once worked for often had IT people from the company do any techie work he needed done to his house. I was putting in some Wi-Fi access points for him when his secretary called and asked me if I would mind driving the Maybach to the office and then take the Porsche he had driven to work back to his house. He was having some back issues and didn't want to get in the Porsche. I say sure, no problem, talk to the butler, get the keys, hop in the pristine white Maybach and drive the couple miles to the office. When I pulled up he was already outside, and when I handed him the keys he said, "Thought I had a silver one at home, must have left it in other city." Not being able to understand what money means to people below their financial status. I'm well off compared to other people in my country but go to a school where most people are actually wealthy. Between both levels I see that people cannot relate to the people below them in that regard and it causes friction. Like when my friend and I organize a holiday together, she doesn't understand why I get annoyed when she wants to wait until the last minute to book tickets because she genuinely doesn't care whether they're 50 or 500 euros. Or when my partner's family's car got stolen, they didn't bother getting a reimbursement from the insurance because it was too annoying to set up. This means people also sometimes don't reimburse you when you pay for lunch because they already forgot about this, and for them $30 is nothing, so why would it be for you? And they don't notice when you get them a really nice gift because all the gifts they get are really nice. This isn't malicious at all, just a genuinely different perception of reality. I ran into an old friend who was doing extremely well a few years back and who grew up wealthy as well. He mentioned to me how he and his fiancée wanted to buy their own apartment in New York because he was sick of both of them throwing out $3,000 each for rent each month and how it was draining their ability to travel. Did not occur to him that as a teacher I made significantly less than $3,000 a month, and when I told him he thought I was lying because he genuinely could not fathom living on less than $10,000 a month. It was eye-opening for both of us for different reasons. Before anyone asks, yes, he knew and knows that the poor exist, but he didn't understand that his own friends were poor, by his standard or otherwise, and just how many of us were, and are, struggling to make ends meet. He thought most of us were living below our means on purpose, and it took this conversation for it to click for him why he didn't see any of his old friends traveling the world or getting professional portraits done or buying fancy cars. He thought we were just living lives and not doing those things just because, and not because we couldn't. Feeling like you can't talk about certain things with people who don't make as much. I'm not rich, but I make more than some friends. There have been times when I'll tell them about something and I get a sarcastic "must be nice" reception. "Mister, I wear 2 socks a day over here." Matching socks, at that. What a snob. There's a lot of isolation that comes with wealth, particularly if your wealth goes up more than your friends. It's minor at first and not such a big deal, but over time the gap becomes bigger and bigger and it can start to become difficult to bridge that gulf. When you're younger, you might have been able to afford a small house, when your friends who are also doing well but not quite as well are looking to buy an apartment. A few years later and you live in a bigger house, in a much nicer neighborhood than them. It's not that different, but your friends tend to come to yours more, and often comment about how nice where you live is. You've known these guys for years after all. Some areas of conversation have gradually moved off the table. Your stresses and successes at work are going to be different to theirs. It's lonely at the top in companies as most people don't understand it. Why would they? It's stuff you only really get with experience. You do your best to talk about their work worries, but while you used to get it, it's starting to become hard to stay interested. Interpersonal work dramas are not the same anymore. They seem so minor compared to the weight of leadership and livelihoods that you feel. So you don't really talk about that stuff anymore. Which is fine. There's lots of other stuff you have in common. Except, the overlap in interests starts to lessen. Some of your interests have crept into higher income things. You used to go on similar holidays, but now you're going further afield and having more luxurious holidays because you work hard and only get so much time off. So why shouldn't you spend your hard-earned money on yourself? Maybe you used to like to talk about cars, but now it's a bit awkward talking about the car you're looking at getting, because it's more than the house deposit your friends just spend ages saving up for. Okay, maybe gaming, but you've got the latest console or computer because you got it on launch without batting an eyelid at the price, and you can't play the new games you'd like with them. Little areas of your commonality is gradually getting chipped away. Then the big gulf is when you have kids. Maybe your friends have had kids too. After a while, it sinks in that your kids are going to have a completely different experience growing up to your friends' kids. Just because they'll be growing up in a much wealthier neighborhood. It doesn't matter how much you're going to try to keep them grounded, they're just going to have way more opportunities. They are going to go to a better school, interact with much more affluent families and generally grow up in a completely different lifestyle. They're probably even going to talk differently. You might still feel like you're not that different from your friends, but your kids are probably going to be very different to those of your old friends. Eventually, you grow further and further apart from your old friends. You make new friends in your neighborhood or other parents from their school. It all feels a little bit forced and not as natural as you used to be with old friends. You still meet up with them maybe once or twice a year. Most of your time together is spent reminiscing. On the whole, you're happy and comfortable with your life, but you still really miss your old friends and the good old days. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more like it.